He had always thought that he was good at managing everything in his life. Work, home, children, it all seemed to be under control. But as his career became busier, he realized that the one thing he could not manage alone was the growing needs of his children. They were energetic, curious, and sometimes exhausting. He loved them deeply, but the hours in a day were never enough, and he felt the weight of the constant juggling. After weeks of thinking, he decided that hiring a nanny would be the best solution. Not just any nanny, but someone who could genuinely connect with his children and help create a stable and loving environment. The process of finding the right person was not easy. He wanted someone experienced, kind, and trustworthy. He interviewed several candidates, but none seemed right. Some were too strict, others too casual. Then, one day, he met her. She was calm, polite, and had a warmth that immediately put him at ease. There was something in her eyes that suggested patience and understanding, qualities that he knew his children needed. Her resume was impressive, but it was more than the experience that mattered. It was the feeling she gave when she spoke about caring for children. He felt confident that she was the right person to welcome into his home. From the very first day, she approached her work with dedication. She arrived early, organized the day, and took time to learn each child's personality. She knew when one needed quiet and when the other needed energy to burn. Her presence was gentle but firm. Her attention focused but flexible. She read stories in a way that made the children laugh and think at the same time. Meals were prepared with care. Small details like cutting sandwiches into fun shapes or making colorful fruit platters showed that she thought beyond the basics. He watched from the doorway sometimes, heart swelling with relief, realizing that his children were not just cared for, they were genuinely happy. Days passed, and she became a part of the household rhythm. She noticed little things, like when the younger one had a hard time sleeping, or when the older one needed encouragement with homework. She even left small notes for the children, little messages of kindness that made them feel special. He started trusting her more than he had imagined he could trust anyone outside the family. She seemed to anticipate their needs before they were even expressed. In his busy life, she became the anchor he hadn't known he needed. He started to think of her not just as a helper, but as someone who truly belonged to the family. Despite his initial relief, he couldn't help but observe her closely. Sometimes, late at night, he would watch from his office window as she played quietly with the children, singing soft songs and laughing with them. There was a sense of devotion in her that seemed almost effortless. He felt a mix of gratitude and awe. How could someone have such patience, such understanding, and yet remain so humble about it? He began to notice the little things she did that weren't part of her job. Description: cleaning up little messes without being asked, tucking the children in when they fell asleep on the couch, listening intently when they told her about their day. The children adored her. They ran to her when they woke up in the morning, clung to her side when they were sad, and giggled uncontrollably at her playful antics. He watched their faces light up and felt a deep sense of comfort, knowing they were in safe hands. She had a way of turning ordinary moments into something memorable. Breakfasts became small celebrations of color and taste. Walks to the park became adventures full of imagination. Even chores were approached with a sense of fun that made the children more willing to participate. He started to realize that her influence was shaping the children in small but meaningful ways. Over time, he noticed that her presence brought a balance to their household. The chaotic mornings seemed smoother, the afternoons more productive, and the evenings calmer. He could finally breathe, knowing that someone was looking after the children's emotional needs as well as their physical ones. He began to feel that he had found someone he could truly rely on. It wasn't just about trust anymore. It was about admiration. She had become an integral part of their daily life, someone whose absence was felt immediately. Her smile, her calm tone, her gentle guidance had woven themselves into the fabric of their family. He also found himself talking to her more often than he expected. Simple conversations about the children evolved into discussions about values, routines, and small challenges that came with raising children. She offered insights that were thoughtful and practical, always respectful, never judgmental. He appreciated her honesty and her ability to see things from a perspective he sometimes missed in his busy life. It wasn't just her actions, but her understanding that impressed him. She had a way of making complicated things feel manageable. He began to feel less burdened by the day-to-day pressures. Even outside the home, her influence was visible. The children spoke about her at school, sharing stories of the games they played and the lessons they learned. Their teachers noticed improvements in their behavior and confidence. He realized that her guidance extended beyond the walls of their house. She had a subtle, positive impact that reached every part of their lives. He marveled at how someone could quietly, almost invisibly, shape a child's world in such a profound way. Her presence was a reminder that care, attention, and patience could create an environment where children truly thrived. Despite all of this, he sometimes felt a quiet curiosity about her. She shared just enough about herself to be friendly and relatable, but there were still pieces of her life that he didn't know. Where did she come from? What experiences had shaped her into the person she was today? He realized that he felt a mix of admiration and intrigue. She was part of their daily lives, yet her own story remained mostly private. He respected that boundary, but the questions lingered. He wondered if she had challenges, dreams, or past experiences that had led her to become the compassionate, thoughtful person they now relied on. He started noticing small details that hinted at a life he knew nothing about. The way she occasionally paused, lost in thought, or the moments when a particular song or phrase seemed to catch her off guard. She never shared too much, but these brief glimpses suggested a depth that he had not anticipated. It made him appreciate her even more. He realized that part of what made her exceptional was not just her skills or her patience, but the richness of her inner life that informed how she cared for the children as the days turned into weeks. And the weeks into months, he came to see her as more than just a nanny. She was a guide, a friend, and a steady presence in the ever-changing world of raising children. The trust he had placed in her had grown into something profound. He had thought he was in control, that he understood everything about his household and the people in it. But her presence reminded him that life was often more nuanced than it appeared. He had found someone whose impact could not be measured simply by duties completed or tasks managed. She had brought warmth, stability, and joy into their lives in ways he had not imagined possible. Every evening, as he tucked the children into bed, he reflected on the day and the small ways she had made it better. He realized that she had taught him something important without ever intending to. She had shown him the power of patience, attentiveness, and empathy. Watching the children drift off to sleep under her care, he felt a sense of peace that had been missing for a long time. He knew that choosing her had been the right decision, not just for practical reasons, but because she had become a part of their lives in a meaningful, enduring way. He still didn't know everything about her. There were parts of her life that remained a mystery, stories she kept to herself. But in that uncertainty, he found a kind of respect and admiration that deepened over time. He understood that trust was not about knowing every detail, but about believing in someone's integrity and character. She had earned that trust every single day, through small acts of kindness, attentiveness, and unwavering support. He knew that as long as she was there, the children were not only safe, but flourishing. And that knowledge brought a sense of relief, and gratitude that words could hardly capture. He never imagined that hiring a nanny could change his household in such profound ways. She had brought laughter, learning, and love into their daily lives. And her presence had become something he could not imagine living without. The routine tasks of feeding, cleaning, and guiding the children were transformed into moments of connection and growth. He had thought he knew everything about managing his family, but in reality, she had quietly taught him lessons that he could never have learned on his own. In those first months, he realized that sometimes the most remarkable people enter our lives quietly, and the impact they have is felt deeply. Even if the full story remains hidden as the days went on, he started noticing small things about the nanny that made him pause. At first, they were tiny details that could easily be overlooked at a glance that lingered. A pause before answering a question, or a fleeting look of thoughtfulness when no one was watching. He told himself he was overthinking. After all, she was kind, competent, and devoted to his children. But there was something about the way she carried herself, quiet depth in her expressions that suggested she was more than she appeared. Sometimes he overheard conversations she had with the children. She would ask questions that made them think carefully, or give advice in a way that was gentle but wise beyond what he expected from someone he barely knew. He watched as the children listened to her with respect, their little faces lighting up when she explained something new. It amazed him how naturally she connected with them, understanding their moods, their fears, and their hopes in ways that seemed almost intuitive. He realized that this connection was not something that could be taught or faked. It came from a life lived with thought and experience. One afternoon, returned home early from work. The children were in the backyard playing, and she was sitting on the grass, talking with them about their day. She laughed freely with the children, but there were moments when her eyes seemed distant, as if something from the past had caught her attention. He watched from the doorway, unsure whether to interrupt or give her space. That day, he felt the first real hint that her story might be more complicated than he had imagined. He didn't know why, but he was curious, a curiosity that grew quietly but steadily. There were other clues as well. Occasionally, she would mention places or experiences that didn't match the simple life she led in his home. A comment about living in a different city, a fleeting reference to a skill he hadn't known she had. At first, he didn't think much of it. People have pasts, and who was he to pry? But gradually, the pattern became noticeable. He realized that she had layers to her life that she had chosen not to share, and it fascinated him. He felt both respect for her privacy and a desire to understand more about her journey. The children continued to adore her, as they always had, but he started to notice a subtle shift in their interactions. They sometimes asked questions about her past, curious about where she had lived, what she had done before, and why she cared for them so deeply. She answered them with honesty, but always in a way that was age-appropriate, never revealing more than was necessary. He watched these moments and felt a growing admiration for how she balanced transparency and discretion. It was clear that she had learned to navigate relationships with care, a skill that went far beyond simple childcare. He also started observing the way she handled challenges. One day, the younger child fell and scraped a knee badly. She stayed calm, cleaning and comforting him, talking to him softly until he felt safe again. But later he noticed her shoulders tense and her eyes clouded with something unspoken. He wondered if there was a story behind that moment, something she had experienced before that allowed her to respond so calmly under pressure. It was a small clue, almost invisible, but it made him realize that her life experience had given her a strength that was rare and precious at home. He found himself thinking about her more often than he expected. He noticed the way she arranged the children's toys, the thoughtful notes she left for them, and the careful attention she gave to every little detail. Each action reflected a person who not only cared, but understood deeply. He started reflecting on his assumptions. He had thought he knew everything about her after months of working together, but these subtle hints suggested there was much more beneath the surface. She was a mystery, in a quiet, unassuming way, and that intrigued him. One evening, he returned home to find her sitting at the kitchen table, quietly preparing a small craft project for the children. She noticed him and smiled, but there was a softness in her eyes that made him pause. For a brief moment, he thought he saw a trace of sadness, or perhaps a memory, lingering behind her calm exterior. He didn't ask about it, unsure if it was appropriate, but the moment stayed with him. It made him realize that there was a depth to her life story that he could only guess at, and that guess left him with a mixture of curiosity and respect. The children, unaware of his observations, continued to thrive under her care. They grew more confident, more curious, and more empathetic. He noticed the small changes: how the older child began to take responsibility for simple tasks, how the younger child learned patience and kindness. He realized that these changes were not just the result of her guidance, but also of her example. She demonstrated calm, thoughtfulness, and resilience in every interaction. He started to see that her influence extended beyond the immediate, shaping the children in ways that would last a lifetime. Despite his admiration, he sometimes felt a pang of unease. He had hired someone to care for his children, but she had become so much more than that. She was a part of their daily lives, a presence that had grown essential. the idea that he didn't know everything about her, that there were aspects of her past and her inner life that remained hidden, was unsettling in a quiet way. Yet it also made him appreciate her more. He realized that he had been given a rare gift, someone whose care and wisdom were genuine. Even if her full story was unknown, he began to notice patterns in her behavior that hinted at experiences he could only imagine. How she handled stress, how she approached learning and teaching, how she balanced firmness with gentleness. It became clear that she had faced challenges before, challenges that had shaped her into the person she was today. The more he observed, the more he understood that her strength and kindness were not just traits, but the result of a life lived with attention, resilience, and reflection. Each day he felt grateful for the quiet lessons she imparted through her actions. One afternoon, the older child asked her a question about her past, wondering aloud about the places she had lived. She responded carefully, smiling and answering only in a way that felt safe for the child. But he noticed the momentary pause, the subtle shadow behind her eyes. He realized that there was a story she had chosen to keep private, a life beyond the walls of his home that had shaped her profoundly. That realization made him see her in a new light, not just as a caregiver, but as someone with depth, courage, and experience he could never fully know. He also observed the way she interacted with him. Conversations were professional, warm, and respectful. But sometimes he caught glimpses of insight that suggested a life filled with challenges and growth. She offered advice that seemed to reflect personal understanding, solutions that were practical yet wise. He began to wonder about the path that had led her here, how her past experiences had honed her ability to connect with children and navigate complex situations with ease. Her quiet competence was no longer just impressive, it was remarkable. As the weeks passed, the curiosity grew. He found himself thinking about the life she had before joining his household. He wondered about the struggles she had faced, the triumphs she had experienced, and the lessons she had learned. It wasn't about prying or judgment, but a genuine desire to understand the person who had become so important to his children and to him. He realized that her story, whatever it was, had shaped the kindness, patience, and strength that had become indispensable to their family. Despite his growing curiosity, he respected her boundaries. She had shared what she felt comfortable sharing, and that was enough for the time being. But the small hints, the fleeting expressions, and the moments of quiet reflection all pointed to a hidden depth. He felt a mix of admiration, intrigue, and respect. She was more than he had initially thought, and he began to realize that knowing someone completely was not necessary to appreciate their value. Her actions spoke louder than words, and the impact she had on his family was profound. It's undeniable. He also noticed how she quietly influenced his own approach to parenting. Her calmness, thoughtfulness, and understanding reminded him to slow down, to notice the small moments, and to engage with his children in ways he had sometimes neglected. Her presence encouraged him to reflect, to grow, and to appreciate the subtleties of daily life. He realized that her influence extended beyond the children. It was reshaping the household as a whole, including his own perspective on what it meant to be a parent. One evening, he caught her looking at a photo of the children on her phone. The expression on her face was tender, almost wistful, and for a brief moment, he thought he glimpsed a private emotion, a memory or feeling that belonged only to her. He did not ask about it, but the moment lingered in his mind. It reinforced the sense that there was more to her than met the eye, a story she had chosen to keep private, yet a story that added richness to the person she was. He began to accept that the unknown aspects of her life were part of what made her remarkable. The subtle clues, the fleeting expressions, and the quiet wisdom all pointed to experiences he could only imagine. He realized that her strength, patience, and empathy were not just natural gifts, but the result of a life that had prepared her to care for others in extraordinary ways. In the subtle mystery of her past, he found admiration, respect, and a growing sense of trust that deepened with every passing day. The children continued to thrive under her guidance, their laughter, curiosity, and joy filling the home. He watched them and felt a sense of gratitude that went beyond words. She had become an essential part of their lives, shaping their growth and nurturing their hearts. And while he did not yet know her full story, he understood that her presence was a gift, one that enriched their household and offered lessons in patience, kindness, and understanding. The small hints of hidden depth only made her influence more profound, leaving him eager to discover, in time, the full story behind the remarkable woman who had quietly transformed their lives. One morning, he returned home earlier than usual, expecting the house to be quiet with the children still getting ready for school. Instead, he found her sitting at the kitchen table with the older child, going through a stack of papers and documents. She looked up and smiled, but there was a seriousness in her expression he had rarely seen. Curiosity piqued. He quietly stepped closer and noticed a folder marked with certificates, letters, and photographs that hinted at an impressive, unexpected background. He realized in that instant that he had been seeing only a small portion of her story. There was more to her life than the quiet, devoted presence he had come to rely on every day. He watched from a distance as she carefully explained some of the documents to the child, listened with fascination. These were achievements, recognitions, and experiences that went far beyond the world of childcare. For the first time, he began to understand that she carried a past filled with accomplishments, challenges, and perhaps sacrifices. He wondered how someone with such a rich history had come to care for his children, dedicating herself with such humility and devotion. The contrast between her past and her present was striking. It left him both amazed and curious. After the children left for school, he gently approached her. He wanted to ask questions, but also feared intruding into something private. She seemed to sense his thoughts, and without hesitation, she smiled and offered a quiet explanation. Her words revealed a life filled with experiences that had shaped her into someone capable of understanding, guiding, and nurturing others. She spoke of challenges she had faced, of moments of growth and self-discovery, and of the lessons she had learned along the way. His admiration for her grew, as did his understanding of the depth and complexity she brought into their home. He learned that her past was not without hardship. There had been times of struggle, uncertainty, and decisions that required courage. She had faced situations that demanded resilience and self-reliance, and those experiences had given her a profound sense of empathy and patience. He realized that the calm, thoughtful way she cared for his children was a reflection of the strength she had developed over the years. Each interaction with the children, each act of kindness and guidance, was informed by a life that had taught her the value of understanding and compassion. As days passed, he noticed subtle changes in the way he perceived her. He no longer saw her only as a caregiver. He saw a woman of remarkable resilience and wisdom. Her actions, once impressive in their practicality and gentleness, now carried deeper meaning. He began to appreciate the courage it took to balance her past experiences with her present role. She had chosen, consciously or unconsciously, to dedicate herself to nurturing young lives, and he felt a renewed sense of gratitude for her presence. Her life story, once hidden, added a layer of respect and awe to every moment they shared. The children continued to flourish under her care, but he noticed that their admiration for her grew as well. They asked questions about her past, eager to understand the woman who had become such an integral part of their lives. She answered with honesty, but carefully, ensuring that the stories were appropriate for their age. Each answer revealed just enough to satisfy their curiosity, while maintaining the dignity of her experiences. He observed these interactions with a sense of pride and amazement, realizing that the children were learning lessons about resilience, humility, and compassion simply by knowing her. One afternoon, as they all sat together reading stories, he noticed the way she paused at certain moments, reflecting before speaking. Her insights into the characters, the situations, and the lessons within the stories were profound. She had a way of connecting the narratives to real-life experiences, gently guiding the children to understand emotions, consequences, and empathy. He realized that her ability to teach went far beyond conventional methods. It was informed by life, by experiences that had shaped her understanding of people and their struggles. Her guidance was not only educational but deeply human, touching the hearts of the children in ways that would stay with them forever. He began to think about the times he had overlooked her subtle cues, The quiet moments of reflection, the small gestures of care, the way she seemed to anticipate needs before they were expressed. All of these were informed by a depth he had only just begun to understand. He realized that he had been seeing her as a static presence in the household, rather than a person with a past, with talents, with stories that had shaped her uniquely. The realization was humbling and inspiring, making him more attentive, more thoughtful, and more appreciative of every interaction. One day he found a box tucked away in the corner of the study. Inside were awards, certificates, and letters from institutions and organizations, detailing accomplishments that left him speechless. She had excelled in areas he had never imagined, demonstrating leadership, intelligence, and dedication. It was clear that her life had been rich with experiences, yet she had chosen a path that prioritized care, empathy, and connection over recognition and personal gain. He was struck by the quiet humility with which she carried herself. The ability to dedicate herself fully to others without needing to broadcast her. He began to reflect on the lessons he could learn from her. Patience, empathy, resilience. Humilities were not qualities taught in a classroom or measured by a resume, but they were evident in every action she took. He realized that her influence extended far beyond the practical care of his children. She was shaping their characters, teaching them values, and modeling behaviors that would guide them throughout their lives. He felt a deep sense of gratitude, not only for the immediate care she provided, but for the lasting impact she was having on the family as a whole. In quiet moments, he observed her writing in a notebook. Occasionally, she would pause, lost in thought, pen hovering above the page. He wondered what she was recording: memories, reflections, lessons learned. He realized that even in these private moments, she carried a richness of experience that informed everything she did. The depth of her life, the challenges she had faced, the wisdom she had gained, were all woven into the fabric of her daily interactions. It became clear to him that her past and present were inseparable, and that understanding her fully required recognizing both the visible and the hidden aspects of her life. The more he learned, the more he respected the choices she had made. She had the intelligence, skill, and potential to pursue any number of paths, yet she chose to dedicate herself to nurturing young lives. Her decision reflected a profound understanding of purpose and impact, and he was increasingly aware of the privilege it was to witness her dedication firsthand. Her presence in the home was not just helpful, it was transformative. She had become a source of stability, wisdom, and inspiration, and he felt grateful for the depth she brought to every interaction. The children, too, began to notice the subtle ways in which she enriched their lives. They observed her patience, her attentiveness, and her ability to handle complex situations with grace. They learned that strength could be quiet, that wisdom could be gentle, that kindness was often the most powerful force in the world. He saw these lessons reflected in their behavior, in their interactions with one another, and in the way they approached challenges. She was shaping not only their present, but their future, imparting values that would guide them long after they had left the home. One evening, as they were sitting together for dinner, he asked her about a particular certificate he had noticed. She explained briefly, with humility and modesty, but he could see the pride in her eyes. It was a pride not for recognition, but for the journey she had undertaken and the lessons she had learned along the way. He realized that her experiences had given her a unique perspective on life, one that allowed her to connect with his children and with him in meaningful ways. Her hidden truth, once revealed, added layers of depth to his understanding and appreciation of her. He began to see that the hidden parts of her life were not just background details, they were integral to who she was. Her strength, wisdom, patience, and empathy were all informed by experiences he had only begun to glimpse. Every action, every decision, every interaction with the children carried the imprint of a life lived thoughtfully and with resilience. He felt a deep sense of respect and admiration, recognizing that he had been given the rare opportunity to witness the profound impact of a person who had chosen to dedicate herself to others. Quietly and selflessly, as the weeks turned into months, he found himself reflecting more and more on the lessons he could learn from her. Her approach to challenges, her her ability to remain calm under pressure. Her thoughtful guidance and her quiet resilience all offered insights into how to navigate life with grace and purpose. He realized that her influence extended beyond childcare. She was teaching him, the children, and the household as a whole, how to live with empathy, humility, and integrity. Her hidden truth was not just a story of the past, it was a guiding force in the present, shaping the lives of everyone around her in ways that were profound and lasting. Over time, he realized that the hidden truths about the nanny were starting to change the way he saw the world. Her past, once invisible, was now a source of admiration and understanding. He found himself wanting to know more, not out of suspicion, but because he genuinely wanted to understand the person who had become such an important part of his children's lives. Her calm presence, her thoughtful guidance, and her quiet wisdom had all been shaped by experiences he could only imagine. Each day revealed more about the depth of her character and the strength she carried quietly within herself. One afternoon, he decided to ask her directly about her experiences that had led her to this path. They sat together in the living room after the children had gone to bed, the house quiet except for the soft hum of the evening outside. He approached the conversation with care, knowing that trust was built on respect and patience. She listened, attentively nodding, and when she spoke, her voice was calm and steady. She shared stories of challenges she had faced, moments of doubt, and decisions that had required courage. Her words were not meant to impress, but to explain, to offer context for the person she had become. He learned that she had overcome hardships that demanded resilience and determination. There had been times when she faced uncertainty, when choices seemed impossible, and when she had to rely solely on her inner strength. Each story revealed a lesson, a piece of wisdom that she had carried forward into her work with children. He realized that her ability to guide, nurture, and teach was deeply rooted in these experiences. The qualities he had admired in her from the beginning, patience, empathy, and understanding, were not just innate. They were cultivated through a life of challenges and growth. He was struck by the humility with which she recounted her past. There was no need for recognition, no desire to impress him or anyone else. She simply shared her experiences as a way of offering understanding, of connecting on a human level. He felt a deep sense of respect and gratitude, realizing that he had been given insight into a life that was both remarkable and quietly extraordinary. Her past was no longer hidden in mystery. It was a testament to her character and the resilience that defined her. The children, sensing the bond growing between him and the nanny, continued to thrive in their environment. They learned from her indirectly, absorbing the lessons embedded in her actions and words. He watched them develop kindness, patience, and curiosity, and he knew that these qualities were influenced not just by what she taught, but by who she was. Her experiences, shared or unspoken, had shaped her into a person capable of nurturing these qualities in others. He felt a sense of awe at the subtle, profound impact she had on their development. There were moments when he saw glimpses of her vulnerability. Perhaps it was a memory that crossed her mind, or a challenge she recalled. But in those moments, he saw the depth of her humanity. He realized that it was this combination of strength and vulnerability that made her so effective, so impactful. She had faced adversity and emerged stronger, yet she remained compassionate and attentive to the needs of others. He felt fortunate to witness these qualities in action. To learn from her example without even realizing it at first, he began to see their relationship evolve. No longer was it simply employer and nanny. It was a connection built on trust, respect, and mutual understanding. He felt comfortable sharing concerns about the children, discussing daily routines, and seeking advice on challenges that arose. She listened with care, offering guidance that was thoughtful and grounded in her experiences. The dynamic shifted subtly, moving from formal professionalism to a genuine human connection, one that enhanced the sense of family within their home. One evening, they were preparing a simple dinner together when he asked her about a decision she had made years ago, something that had clearly shaped her journey. She paused, considering her words, and then spoke with honesty and clarity. Her story revealed a pivotal moment, a choice that required courage and foresight. Listening to her, he understood that the qualities he admired so much, resilience, patience, empathy, were born from such moments. He felt a profound respect, realizing that her presence in their lives was enriched by a history that had prepared her to care, guide, and nurture with such skill. The children, meanwhile, continued to learn from her example. They saw her handle situations with calm and clarity, and they began to imitate her thoughtful approach. Small disagreements between siblings were resolved more peacefully. Tasks were approached with patience, and curiosity was encouraged with gentle guidance. He noticed the subtle changes in their behavior, and he recognized that these were lessons drawn not from textbooks, but from the lived experience of someone who had faced life with wisdom and compassion. Her influence extended far beyond the immediate. It was shaping the children's characters in ways that would last a lifetime. As the days went on, he observed how her past experiences informed her present actions. She anticipated challenges before they arose, managed conflicts with understanding, and created an environment of trust and safety. He realized that these abilities were not accidental. They were the result of a life lived thoughtfully and resiliently. Her hidden truths, once discovered, illuminated the reasons behind her effectiveness and the depth of her care. Each day he felt more grateful for the way she had chosen to dedicate herself to his family. He began to reflect on the lessons he could apply to his own life. Her calm demeanor, thoughtful responses, and ability to handle stress inspired him to approach his own challenges differently. He realized that patience, empathy, and resilience were not just traits to admire, they were practices to cultivate. Observing her had become an unexpected form of mentorship, teaching him how to navigate relationships, challenges, and responsibilities with grace and understanding. Her influence extended beyond childcare. It shaped his own approach to life. There were moments of laughter and lightness as well. They played games with the children, shared stories, and explored imaginative ideas together. In these moments, he saw the joy that came from her ability to connect deeply and authentically. She had a way of making ordinary experiences meaningful, turning everyday routines into opportunities for learning, growth, and bonding. He appreciated how she balanced seriousness with play, guidance with freedom, and structure with creativity. Her approach created a home filled with warmth, joy, and security. As their conversations deepened, he learned more about the values that guided her life. She spoke of integrity, perseverance, and kindness, not as abstract concepts but as lived principles. Her past challenges had reinforced these values, and she applied them consistently in her interactions with his children and with him. He felt a renewed sense of admiration for the choices she had made and the person she had become. Her hidden truth, once revealed, enriched their understanding of her and strengthened the bonds of trust and respect within their home. One day, he noticed her quietly helping the children with a school project. Her attention to detail, patience, and encouragement were remarkable. She guided them through challenges without taking over, allowing them to learn, make mistakes, and grow. He realized that her ability to nurture independence and confidence was a direct reflection of her own life experiences. She understood the value of learning through effort, of building resilience, and of cultivating self-esteem. These lessons were not just for the children, they were for everyone in the household, including him. He found himself increasingly inspired by her perspective on life, her approach to challenges, her understanding of human behavior. Her ability to maintain calm and clarity under pressure offered him insights he had never considered. He began to see that her influence extended beyond daily routines. She was shaping the emotional and moral landscape of their home. Her hidden truths, once a mystery, now illuminated the source of her wisdom and the profound impact she had on everyone around her, in quiet moments. He reflected on the significance of trust and understanding. He realized that truly knowing someone went beyond facts and histories. It was about appreciating their character, values, and experiences. The nanny had taught him this lesson through her actions and the way she carried herself. Her hidden past, once revealed, added depth to his respect and admiration, showing him that people are shaped by what they endure, overcome, and learn. He felt grateful for the opportunity to witness this and to benefit from her quiet guidance. As the evening settled, he observed the harmony within the home. The children were happy, the routines flowed smoothly, and there was a sense of calm and security that he had never experienced before. He knew that much of this was due to her presence, her wisdom, and the lessons embedded in her actions. Her hidden truths, once uncovered, explained the extraordinary impact she had and strengthened his appreciation for the person she was. He understood that she was more than a caregiver. She was a guide, a mentor, and a source of inspiration for the entire family. Over the following weeks, he noticed that the bond between the children and the nanny had grown even stronger. They trusted her not just to care for them, but to guide them, comfort them, teach them about the world in ways that went beyond school lessons or daily routines. Her past, once hidden from him, now gave a new perspective on why she was so capable and why her influence was so profound. She had endured challenges, grown stronger from them, and chosen to channel her experiences into care and understanding, making her uniquely suited to this role. One afternoon, he returned home to find the nanny quietly sitting in the living room, reading a story to the children. She had a gentle, calm presence that filled the room, and the children were completely absorbed in her words. He watched for a moment, noticing the patience and thoughtfulness she showed, the way she made sure each child felt included and understood. He realized that her actions were a reflection of her life experiences, lessons learned from hardship and growth that she now applied to nurture others. It was inspiring to see how seamlessly her past had become part of the care she provided. Later that evening, he had a long conversation with her, sitting together in the quiet of the kitchen. He asked more questions, seeking to understand how she had developed the qualities he admired so much. She shared stories of challenges she had faced, how she had learned to persevere, and how moments of failure had taught her resilience. Her words were calm, humble, and deeply human. He felt a profound sense of respect for the person she was and the journey she had traveled to reach this point. It became clear that her past had shaped her into someone capable of giving love, care, and guidance in a way few people could. The children, sensing the importance of the conversation, sat nearby quietly. They had begun to understand, even in their young way, that she had a life filled with experiences that made her wise and compassionate. They asked thoughtful questions, and she answered with care, making sure they understood without revealing too much. He realized that through these moments, the children were learning empathy, patience, and respect. Her hidden truths were not just part of her past, they were now lessons for the next generation. He also began to notice subtle changes in himself. Observing her interactions and listening to her reflections made him more thoughtful in his own approach to parenting. He learned to be more patient, to listen more carefully, and to appreciate the small moments of connection. The quiet lessons she offered through her behavior, her guidance, and her words had a lasting impact on him. Her presence was not only beneficial to the children, but transformative for the entire family dynamic. He realized that her hidden truths had enriched their lives in ways he could never have anticipated. One evening, he watched as she helped the children with a creative project. Her encouragement, attention to detail, and willingness to guide without taking over created an atmosphere of trust and confidence. The children laughed, experimented, and learned from their mistakes, all under her careful supervision. He understood that her ability to nurture independence and growth came from a life filled with lessons and resilience. Her hidden past, once a mystery, had given her the skills and understanding to provide guidance that was both meaningful and effective. The family began to see her not just as a nanny, but as an integral part of their household. She was someone they relied on, admired, and trusted deeply. Her influence extended beyond daily routines, shaping the values, behavior, and emotional growth of the children. He realized that her presence had created a sense of stability and warmth that would be hard to replace. The lessons she imparted were subtle but profound, influencing the family in ways that would last long into the future. He began to understand the significance of trust and empathy in human relationships. Her life experiences had taught her the importance of patience, understanding, and resilience, and she applied these lessons every day. The children learned from her example, and he found himself reflecting on how to apply these lessons in his own interactions. Her hidden truths had revealed the depth of her character. and he felt grateful for the wisdom she shared through both words and actions. It was a reminder that people's pasts, even when unseen, shape the present in powerful ways. One afternoon, he noticed her quietly observing the children while they played. Her eyes were attentive, her expression calm and thoughtful. He realized that she was not just supervising them, but understanding their individual needs, moods, and strengths. This ability, he understood, came from experiences she had faced that gave her insight into human behavior and emotions. Her past challenges had given her a perspective that allowed her to guide the children in ways that were nurturing, patient, and effective. He felt a renewed appreciation for the depth of her understanding and the care she provided every day. As time went on, he saw the children applying the lessons she had imparted in subtle ways. They showed empathy toward one another, displayed patience in small disagreements, and approached challenges with curiosity and confidence. Her hidden truths, the experiences that had shaped her, were now influencing the children's growth in ways that were both visible and lasting. He realized that her presence in their lives was a gift that went beyond simple. Caregiving it was a mentorship that would leave a lasting imprint on their characters. He also came to appreciate the quiet humility with which she carried herself. Despite her past achievements and experiences, she never sought recognition or praise. Her focus was on the well-being of the children, the smooth running of the household, and the relationships she nurtured. He admired this selflessness and realized that her true strength lay in her ability to care deeply without seeking attention. Her hidden truths, once revealed, added layers of respect and admiration to the way he viewed her. One day, he found a small notebook she had left open on the dining table. It contained reflections, plans for activities, and thoughtful observations about the children's growth. He realized that she approached her role with intentionality and insight, drawing from both her experiences and her understanding of the children. The notebook was a window into her thoughtful approach, a reflection of the depth and care she brought to her work. He felt a sense of awe at how much thought, love, and understanding went into every aspect of her guidance. As the story of her past unfolded, he realized that her journey had not been easy. There had been moments of difficulty, decisions that required courage, and experiences that tested her resilience. Yet, these challenges had shaped her into the person capable of bringing such positive influence into their home. He felt grateful that she had chosen to share her life with them, even in part, and recognized the rare opportunity to learn from someone with such depth and character. The children, the house, and he himself were all enriched by her presence. Her hidden truths had transformed their understanding, not only of her, but of the human capacity for resilience, kindness, and growth. He realized that her impact would last far beyond the immediate care she provided. The lessons she imparted, the example she set, and the love she shared were all part of a legacy that would shape their lives for years to come. In the quiet moments of reflection, he felt a sense of profound gratitude. He had thought he knew everything about the person caring for his children, but the unfolding of her hidden truths had revealed a depth and richness that surpassed his expectations. Her life experiences, wisdom, and humility had not only enhanced the lives of his children, but had offered him insight and guidance as well. He realized that true understanding and appreciation of someone comes from recognizing both what is visible and what lies beneath the surface. The family continued to grow, thrive, and learn under her guidance. The home was filled with laughter, learning, and love. He understood that her hidden truths, once discovered, had not only surprised him, but had strengthened the bond between them all. The lessons of resilience, empathy, and patience she embodied were now part of their everyday lives. Her quiet presence, informed by her life experiences, had become the cornerstone of their family's growth and happiness. He realized that sometimes the most remarkable people in life are those whose past remains largely hidden, yet whose influence is felt deeply every day. She had chosen to dedicate herself to the care and growth of others, and in doing so, had created a space of trust, love, and understanding. The hidden truths that once surprised him had become a source of inspiration, admiration, and respect. He understood that the impact of her presence would be felt for years, shaping the children, the household, and himself in profound and lasting ways.